So, if you know me, you know that I personally live my life as if there is a God, but I have conversations as if there's not one. There's a reason for that. And the reason is difficult to explain, but it's very visible in the world that we live in today. Now, the reason that I live my life personally as if there is a God, but I have critical conversations as if there's not, it's not because I'm confused. I am certainly not confused when it comes to religious, but it's the only way that I know to be truly subjective socially as a person without creating absolutism, okay? Run with me here. If you don't live in that confusion mentally, if you don't live in that moment theoretically, then your belief turns into absolutism, certainty. Absolutism becomes law. And law, when married with religion, becomes weaponized. We're seeing that today. We've seen it all throughout history. That's not the way that civilizations exist. That's how you get theocracies, okay? And you get these theocracies in many different ways. That's how you get control in the name of salvation. That's how you get more confusion. And that's how you end up turning more and more people truly away from God. Eventually, time proves its point in this matter. Now, let's be real clear here, okay? Jesus was not an American. Certainly, Jesus was not a 2025 right-wing Christian, evangelical, conservative, Republican American. Jesus was, and I believe is, the complete anti of all of that. He never endorsed a nation. He never endorsed a political ideology or a side. He didn't pledge allegiance to a flag, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God. He didn't do that. Jesus did not do that. He didn't say anything, and I mean anything, about America needing to exist so he could come back. That's scripturally sound. Jesus did not say any of that. But what did Jesus say? Well, if we look at John 18, verse 36, Jesus says that my kingdom is not of this world. I want you to stop and think about that. I want you to really stop and think about that. That's Jesus talking plainly. And that's not a metaphor. That's a rejection. Jesus was rejecting something. He was refusing to play the empire's game. He was refusing to play the game of the world when it came to a spiritual matter. Jesus was choosing to live as if he knew there was a God, his Father, but have conversations as if there wasn't. But yet, here we are. Here we are in this strange moment in history where right-wing evangelicalism insists that the fate of Jesus depends solely on their shoulders, on the Republican Party, on our patriotism, on our fruit of the Spirit, right? That is purely rooted in patriotism. And I'm not talking about the fruits of the Spirit in the Bible. I'm talking about the American fruits of the Spirit. This is very challenging hearsay, very challenging belief. And American Christian nationalism is not biblical. It's not. I don't care what they've told you and what they brainwashed you into believing. It's just not true. So let's go all the way back to the 1800s, right? A young American was drunk on the manifest destiny, okay? This was the idea. Pioneers were pushing west. Their guns were drawn with Bibles in hand, ready to do crusades on the Native Americans, right? But then right in the middle of it, boom, comes out this burst of new revelations, okay? And these revelations were seen everywhere, from the Latter-day Saints to the Adventists to even Christian Scientology in a very early, minor sort of way if you look at American history. Many of these religions claim new denominations, claimed American evangelicals, Southern Baptists, all these people claimed that Christ and religion was born out of American soil. And they were all kind of claiming to have been divinely appointed by heaven to appoint themselves to shape this Christian nation and to carry Western and American values throughout the world with this version of Christianity. Some of these religions these denominations are very, very, very strong today. And they do great work. I'm not going to argue this. They do absolutely great work. But when it comes to the historical perspective, I think it's important to realize how they came about and the real time in American society of when they came about. Now look, I am not here to bash their beliefs. That is not what I'm here to do. But when every revelation just kind of happens to line up with the political ambition and land grabs of a nation, my friend, that's not prophecy. That's marketing. That's theology getting drafted into empire building. And that's what I have a real problem with. And of course, I'm very biased because of my background with the Native Americans. And I truly love these people. I think it's amazing. And they're some of the best people I've ever met. But let's face it, this was used to convert them to Christianity for empire building in the American West, the manifest destiny. And this theology, this still lingers today. It's soaked in all of our pulpits. It's soaked into our politics, into our protest. It's seeking into our college campuses where they're trying to insist that we should not have dual-sided conversations, where we should just lean the conversation one way or the other, left or right. It whispers behind Christian nationalism. And this is the myth that God created America to be his chosen instrument in the world. And I don't see anywhere in the Bible, and I know that there's going to be people that quote Old Testament and a little bit of New Testament prophecy saying that America was foretold to come. I don't believe it. I think it's a misinterpretation. But let's get back to Jesus, the Christ of the Bible. Jesus did not build an army. Jesus did not lobby for laws. He didn't demand that his name be printed on the currency. He didn't do that. Jesus washed feet. Jesus was a humble man. Jesus wept. Jesus flipped over tables in the temple, and he turned them into examples for us to live by. Jesus did not choose power. He confronted it. He questioned it. And he lost his life doing so. Now that comes back to me as an individual. That's the Jesus that I try to walk with, that I try to understand, not this picture of the American dream. Not the one draped in a flag, but the one carrying a cross. That's why I say that I live like there's a God, but I have conversations as if there's not. And when I say that, I say that I try to be a little bit reverent, be somewhat humble, though that doesn't come natural to me, be somewhat disciplined, although that doesn't come very natural to me. But then I also speak as if there might not be a God, curious, questioning, wide open, because I do know that Jesus himself didn't come to force that on anyone. That's a little thing called agency, choice. That was a very opposite religion. That was Islam that came to challenge and take over the world in many ways. That's not the Jesus I know. But I respect other people's right to live however they choose to live, in freedom, in peace, however they want to live. Now, I refuse to let my faith become a political platform used for one side or the other. I refuse to to let mystery get flattened into talking points. Okay? I want to point you out the book of Micah, chapter 6, verse 8, if you've ever read it. It says, He has shown you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. That tells us all we need to know. Not vote red, not defend borders, just justice, mercy, and humility. And I ask you, do you see any of that in today's world that we live in? Justice, mercy, and humility. Now, I personally believe in God, but I don't believe that He needs a nation or a political party to represent Him. And if He does, I promise you, I will not be the one carrying that mantle, because it's not one built on guns and glory and American expansionism. The gospel of Jesus Christ, I believe, and the story of God is built on grace and truth, the kind of truth that actually costs you something, the kind of truth that actually hurts, the kind of truth that actually shows tolerance. So, that's my thoughts for today. Live like there is a God. Speak like there might not be. Live your life socially as if there might not be. Just do good. Be humble. Be merciful. Be kind. Be a good person. Be open to the idea that people can live however they choose to live. Jesus himself did not force that on anybody. He was the anti of all of that. And we know that because of the Bible. So I would think that you would have to let your faith be intimate, not imperial, right? Let your questions be fair. Let them be holy. Let them be religious. But never trade the sacred tension of belief for the shallow safety of certainty. That's just crazy. And that's how bad things happen. And if we understand the history of the Crusades and we understand the history of religions throughout the world, every great nation has fallen because they have become certain, absolute, and convinced that their religion or their belief structure was right. Because think of this, certainty is just an empire in a church suit. And faith, real faith, walks with a limp. I'm Matt. Thanks for joining me. That's been my 2 cents on it all. Happy Sunday.